passes last year. This one's knocked up. Bowers tips it to himself, and he'll score.
Snaps it anyway. Greer lobs it in the air. Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State. Jalen Watts Jackson, and he scores on the left. Here's a blitz, and Klubnik didn't see it coming. He got blasted by Kalen DeLoach, who has the ball and is heading toward the end zone.
Ooh.
What is going on, everyone? We are back. It is episode 52 of College Football Talk here. And we have a Week 12 recap for us today. Lots to talk about. Huge show today. A lot of chalk happened this weekend. As I think you thought maybe too for a little bit.
Yeah.
For some games that ended up not being anything. Some games could have a play or two here or there. We could have had a lot of chaos, but instead, chalk, and that's about it. So maybe we'll get something new. Rivalry week coming up here, starting up Thursday with the Egg Bowl. But nonetheless, we got a bunch of shows or games we're going to talk about. Plus, since we were recording a day early, we were going to give our top 6 for the newest rankings, our newest weekly playoff ranking predictions for this week, as well as some hot seat questions and winners and losers of the week. Make sure you guys are subscribing to the channel. Subscriptions have been up recently, so we love to see that. But make sure you guys are doing that because it helps the brand out. A lot of you guys are watching. We just had a record-setting video from from last week's. I think it was the last week's recap, but over 100 views on that. Awesome to see the guys. This most recent episode had over 80 views, so keep it up. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing nonetheless too.
We love it.
There we go. Now you can see me. So I think we're going to hop right into it. We're going to start in the rainy Pacific Northwest, where Washington breaks down Oregon State's dam and survives up in Corvallis, a rainy and cold Corvallis for that matter. Thank God I wasn't there for that one. Anyway, Washington, the biggest thing I was thinking would plague them in this was their defense had been struggling last couple weeks, especially against, the pass is one thing, but, the run game has been iffy. So, Oregon State had come in with a really good run game with Damian Martinez, DJ Uiagalelei can use his legs as well. So, I thought, time of possession, if Oregon State can control that, run the ball well, they're going to do well. And Oregon State did that. They had 15 more minutes of time of possession. 37 minutes. Damian Martinez had 26 carries for 123 yards, 2 touchdowns. They rushed for 148 yards in total. But, Uiagalelei, 15 of 31, 164 yards. But the biggest thing that ended up really being the difference maker was the turnovers. Oregon State had 3 turnovers in the game, which ended up being really the costly mistakes. It was, they had forced a fumble, Washington to fumble. Oregon State got the ball back. A play later, they fumbled it right back to Washington, and then so Washington got the ball right back in Oregon State territory, went down and scored. There was a bad pick by Uiagalelei at the end of the game, as well as in the middle there. That really just ended up being the difference maker because it's a 2-point ball game, and I forget the 2 points came from
safety.
Yes. So there you go. That was the difference maker because Oregon State had chances. The biggest chance they had was in the red zone. They was 22-17. They were driving and they had the ball inside the Washington 30. And there was a one bad play, like first or second down, that really set them back, and then they just weren't able to do much after. Had to kick a field goal, couldn't do anything after. So credit to Washington. Michael Penix didn't really have his best game, 13 of 28 for $162, 2 touchdowns. Rome Odunze, who is an NFL caliber wide receiver right now, stole the show. He was player of the game. Had 7 catches for 106 yards, 2 touchdowns, game-clinching catch on 3rd down. What a ballsy move right there. 3rd and 3, raining, gross. They freaking throw a ball for a 19-yard game. Just an absolute laser beam by Penix. It had to be one spot only. He dialed it up right there, ended up being the clincher. So,
The perfect spot.
were you more impressed with the way Washington was able to find something on offense or how the defense was able to step up?
I was more impressed with the defense, just because we've had this conversation a couple weeks now, is that Washington, the biggest thing that would keep them out of playoff discussion is the fact that their defense is subpar, right?
Yeah.
Is they consistently give up a lot of points to a lot of teams who, we initially said didn't have good offenses, and their offense at times sputtered too against bad competition too.
Yeah.
But, they showed up today. They played in bad weather. Penix didn't have a particularly great game, but he showed up when he needed to for this team.
Yeah.
So, they beat the number 11 team in the country. What more could you ask of them, right?
For sure. I like what you said there. He showed up when he needed to, because he was missing some throws. Like there were some, and it probably had a result to more with the weather, just ball not coming out of the hand.
Yeah, he had a below 50% completion in this game too. Completion percentage. It wasn't, it was not his highest moment. This game probably did vault him out of any conversation for the Heisman.
Yeah, just how the other quarterbacks have been playing recently.
Yeah.
Even just yesterday, he might have just dipped a little bit. And it sucks because, say if it's just a clear Saturday night, who's to say he doesn't go off for like 300?
Yeah.
But I think but the way that Rome Odunze was able to step up for that Washington receiver group, that really particularly didn't really have a good day, except outside of him, not much went on. So credit to him for stepping up in a big way. He had 2 massive touchdowns. But if you're Washington, just train keeps moving along, and now you clinch a spot in the Pac-12 title game. And so you're all good there. You have the Apple Cup coming up. So as long as you don't lose that game, you get it at home. So as long as you don't find a way, Cameron Ward, that Cougar offense completely torched Colorado this weekend. But unless they just go in there and just with the absolute upset intentions on their mind and beat Washington, Washington's going to go into the Pac-12 title game undefeated, and they'll either play Oregon if they win this Friday against Oregon State. If Oregon doesn't win and Arizona wins, Arizona's going to go into the Pac-12 title game. So Arizona was lost by Washington this year by 7. So close games for both teams, but expect an Oregon win, but you never know. If you're Oregon State, nothing to hang your hat on. You played a really good game. Just turnovers in the bad weather probably was the most important part of that. But listen, if you're Washington, keep on rolling. If you win, you're going to be in, and that's all I can say. So think we're ready to move on?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Only other thing I wanted to bring up is congratulations to Washington and Washington State for agreeing to terms to continue the Apple Cup. Legitimately the best news I got on Sunday.
I think it rolls till, was it
2028?
Yeah. So
a 5-year extension, which is what they needed, just some sort of continuation.
For sure. We just don't we need to see that with the Civil War too.
I think I'm going to double check that, but I believe that there's talks about it. They're still trying to find out the details.
All right. So while he's looking that up, we're going to move on to the next game here. And this the 3:30 kickoff on CBS. It was the game of the week for the SEC. It was Georgia heading up to Knoxville, an old Rocky Top, to take on the 18th ranked Tennessee Volunteers, according to the playoff rankings. And Georgia, a lot of people were asking is this going to be one of those games where Carson Beck and this offense and this team in general are going to be overwhelmed again, kind of like they were at Auburn, and kind of just play down to the competition and keep Tennessee in this, and it's just going to be upset, like legit upset threat. I mean,
it didn't happen.
No, it did not happen.
Let's just.
It was so the game couldn't have started any worse for Georgia, any better for Tennessee. One play, and Jalen Wright had a 75-yard touchdown. A questionable no call and a hold where middle linebacker C.J. Allen was being bear hugged and would have probably been able to make a tackle on Jalen Wright if that was called. Wasn't. Nonetheless, Jalen Wright scored. Georgia then allowed – that was the 8th straight game. Georgia has allowed an opening possession touchdown. So there's that. Vice versa, you could say, okay, well, you get that out of the bad stuff out of the system because after that, Jalen Wright, we'll just use Jalen Wright as an example. Jalen Wright had 9 carries for 90 yards. After that touchdown, 8 carries for 15 yards because you count the one. So 8 carries for 15 yards. That's not good by any standards. Joe Milton really struggled today or yesterday. 17 of 30, $147. Missed a couple throws that really could have helped him out yesterday. There was one I just always stand out to me. It was one Squirrel White went right down the middle, or like the left seam, and Joe Milton just overthrows him by like 20 or like 15 yards. And it's like you can't miss that bad. Yeah. I mean, incredible arm, just one hell of an arm. Probably the best arm in college football, but his accuracy is very poor. And it has showed consistently at least once or twice each game this year. Just hasn't been able to find that. Heard him yesterday. They just couldn't get anything going. The defense for Georgia somehow, for some reason, after they give up a touchdown, just puts the clamps on.
Yeah.
13 first downs Tennessee had. 2 of 11 on third down. Only had 19 minutes of possession. Georgia had 41 minutes worth of time of possession. 9 of 13 on third downs. The nation's best third down offense and defense showed up again yesterday. Carson Beck, who is quietly just keeps on moving up the Heisman boards. He is now 4th, I think, ranked 4th best odds.
I think you're right.
3,000. But because he's behind Nix, Daniels, like Marvin Harrison, and
Penix. So Nix number 1, Daniels, Penix Jr., Marvin Harrison 5th, Carson Beck Jr.
So Carson Beck, 24-30, 298 yards, 3 touchdowns, 80% completion percentage, had over 10 yards of completion. Just another onslaught. We came in, I talked about this on the Thursday show, in our preview show, where I said Tennessee is going to struggle this game because they rank 70th in the pass. I think I have the flashcard here still. Here it is. Where we got here? Oh, here we go. Georgia's 14th in passing yards going into this game. Tennessee was 70th in passing defense. And Georgia doesn't allow sacks. Georgia Beck was just doing whatever he wanted back there. And, Dylan Bell had a great game. Marcus Roseby and Jack Saint had a great game. 8 different people caught a pass. Just an utter onslaught. They had 27 first downs, 71 plays to 55. Just an utter onslaught. Dogs keep on rolling. I mean, what do you think for this?
I mean, look, to me, the biggest thing is that Georgia is just they're just a step ahead. I don't like what's the best way to describe this? I do think that Tennessee was a fake team. If we're being honest with ourselves, wow, giving me the whole spotlight right now. Just looking into the numbers, Tennessee could not keep up in a single facet of the game. Their defense couldn't slow down Georgia. Their offense couldn't keep up. They're not even in the same playing ground right now. I mean, Joe Milton's not a great quarterback. He's had moments, but he's not good.
No.
When the lights shine brightest, he falls apart.
Has this been does this indicate anything that maybe it's just a bad year for Josh Heupel in this offense?
Yeah, I think it's just a rebuilding year for them. You know what I mean? They got that one 5-star freshman coming in, or he might already be the backup. I'm not completely sure, but
the quarterback.
I think that's the guy the Nico, the guy.
Nico, he's on the team, so they don't want to. So he can't play next week.
Yeah,
or he can play, but
There's no reason to play him
Oh
against
no, no, no!
Vanderbilt.
Oh, they were talking about
Yeah.
some people were asking like why not bring him in for this game because he was if they used him against Georgia he would have used up his 4th game of eligibility so they
Okay.
wouldn't be able to redshirt him.
Yeah.
But so he can play next week against Vanderbilt if they are up big enough, and then in the bowl game because the bowl game doesn't count towards your eligibility.
So I think if you're Josh Heupel, you're that staff, you're going, this is just a stepping stone year. And even then they're like, hey, we were ranked for most of the year, so we can't be that bad. Which, I would say I guess so, right? But I mean, that program's just still a step behind.
I mean, you lose Brew McCoy, you
Yep.
have a new quarterback, you lose some weapons, but the defense has played better this year. But
Yeah.
losses to
Which
Florida,
is-
but they
I will
just weren't able to
yeah.
beat anybody. Like good,
Mhm.
like their best win is A&M or Kentucky.
I think it's Kentucky because they beat
And Kentucky just lost to South Carolina. So
Yeah. Kentucky's not good, but for Kentucky they're good. You know what I mean?
yeah,
If you get what I'm But yeah, I mean, good win for Georgia. I will say this is the craziest thing about this. This is a weird statement, but hear me out on this. Next week, Haynes King might be the best quarterback they'll play all year up until the SEC
Georgia
championship.
is going to rip Georgia Tech in half.
I don't know. I don't think Tech is that bad. I feel like it's going to be
I don't
closer
think
than
they're
we
a solid. I don't think they're a decent ball. I don't think they're a bad ball club.
Yeah.
But they're not anywhere close. There
I
has
don't know,
been.
man. It's
keep
been a
waiting
couple
for.
years since they've
There's
beaten
no.
you guys. You know what I mean? It's
Not a chance. There is
Look,
no shot.
The thing is, I think Georgia Tech is a solid team.
I think so too, but I just think
And
that.
like I said, I do think Haynes
When-
King is going to be the best quarterback you've played this year, which is a
So
wild
if you're
statement.
worrying about a letdown spot, here's why I
Mhm.
will say that's not going to happen. So
Okay.
if you think about it, most of the coaching staff are what Georgia alumni, so they've
Yeah.
played in this rivalry.
Mhm.
And what do you know Kirby Smart's doing? He's preaching to
Yeah.
these guys like
Mhm.
you don't mess around with this little brother. Like you
Yeah.
take him out, you squash him. Don't even think about letting them have any life. Like they know they're gonna. It's different. Like if they had Jimbo Fisher coaching them, you know what I mean? Like he hasn't
Yeah.
played in that rivalry. Like Kirby Smart's played in that rivalry 4 times. So has Mike Bobo. So has most of the other guys on that staff. Like they know this stuff. Like there's too many leaders in this group that are gonna look ahead. They take it one game at a time. Do you ever watch any post game questions by Kirby Smart? Every time they'll ask him about look ahead spots or anything, it's like we're focused on Georgia Tech. You know what I mean? Like there's no look ahead spots at all. So
I don't even think it's a look ahead spot. I do think Georgia Tech is going to give you their Super Bowl, and I think they're a solid squad this year.
They did last year. They did last year too, and they lost by 23. So
they have a head coach.
Well, Brent Key was there last year.
Was he?
Yeah, because I thought he was.
No,
You sure?
I'm pretty sure he.
I think
got
he was
fired.
he was the intern. He was the intern.
Was he
last year? Yeah, because they were going to hire.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
they were going to hire the guy from Tulane. For some reason, didn't.
Hey, guess where
re-signed.
Brent Key played college football?
Where?
Georgia Tech.
Oh, see, listen. Those nerds up there in Atlanta.
But he was a part of those teams. He was a part of those teams that beat you guys, like those early '90s teams.
Nice. One last thought here.
Yep.
Is there? So we've seen Georgia now.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a team out there that realistically, maybe we have to wait till the Bama game to really say that there's a team out there that can compete when this team's on, when it has full attention, is not sleepwalking?
Yeah.
When this team's on and is ready to come at you at 8+ game, is there any team that is able to match up with them?
Look,
not just a first quarter punch.
No, I understand.
Some of these teams are for 4 quarters go at with stride for stride. So
there's 3 teams that are immediately coming to my mind who I think are the closest. And the funny thing about this is these teams are not 2 and 3. I really don't think Michigan and Ohio State would match up well against Georgia at all.
I agree with that.
However, I would really like to see how Washington, Oregon, and Texas match up.
So,
because I think of those 3 teams, I think those 3 teams have the most talented offensive and defensive linemen who could keep a game close. Because I think Michigan and Ohio State are, they're Big Ten. They just play Big Ten schools, but the second they play non-conference, they're gonna get blown. They're gonna get blown out. The Big Ten is
Yeah.
a fraud to me. I
I
feel like it's a wild statement to say, but the Big Ten is fake.
So I agree with your Michigan one.
hmm
I don't think Michigan has the offense. I don't believe in JJ McCarthy at all. I haven't
Yeah.
ever believed in him.
hmm
They're too one-sided running the football.
Yeah.
Ohio State, I think the weapons on the outside, as you saw from last year's game, are able to do what they want to do if they,
Yeah.
they're all healthy. But the quarterback play from Kyle McCord hasn't been there consistently for me to say, like, okay, like, he's a legitimate threat. Like, CJ Stroud was one guy.
Yep.
You see what he's doing in the NFL right now. He's lighting it up. He's probably going to win Rookie of the Year, probably.
He's in an MVP conversation as a rookie
Yeah.
in the NFL. I mean,
So-
he's a great player.
Kyle McCord, like, he just hasn't put up the same numbers, and it's because we're spoiled seeing all these Ohio State quarterbacks. But
Yeah.
I do like Washington's too one-sided for me. I feel like there's
There's something about Washington.
I think
Washington for some
Oregon.
reason is always able to turn up a key when they're playing an opponent. I don't get it. Doesn't make any sense.
I
But
just
when
think
they play
that
Oregon or they play, Oregon State, all of a sudden they get this random thing in them
Yeah.
where they can suddenly play defense, and it's like weird. But like, I would like to see how they match up. And you keep going though. Sorry for cutting you off there.
Oh no, you're fine. I was just gonna say, I just think Washington, if they get, I'm worried that I wouldn't be worried, but I think that the Georgia secondary would match up fine against them.
Yeah.
I believe in Kamari Lassiter and
Mhm.
Dalen Everett and Julian Humphreys and Malachi Starks and all of them. Like
Yeah.
Texas and Oregon are really the two for me because of the quarterbacks.
Mhm.
Last 4 teams that have beaten Georgia with it under Kirby Smart,
Yeah.
just in this 28-game win streak going back, have all been either Heisman candidate quarterbacks or
Mhm.
just really start like Kyle
Yeah.
Trask, Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa. No, not Tua. It was Bryce Young, Joe Burrow, Bryce Young, Bryce
Kyle
Young,
Trask.
Bryce Young, Kyle Trask, Joe Burrow, and Mac Jones.
Yeah. So 4 NFL quarterbacks.
Yeah, and
Not
so
starting quarterbacks, but just NFL quarterbacks. You know what I mean?
and
There's a difference.
Heisman
between-
finalists or Heisman winners
Yeah.
or Heisman finalists. So you
Yeah.
have to play a hell of a ball game. You have to be able to stretch the field, work well.
Yeah.
And I think Quinn Ewers and Bo Nix are really the two guys that scare me right now the most.
Yeah.
But Bo Nix, I mean,
I'm. This is a weird thing to say, but I'm getting a lot of like 2018 Clemson vibes from that Texas team.
mhm.
You know what I mean? Like they're good, but they're quiet. They don't really make that much noise. They beat teams they're supposed to. You know what I mean? It's like I just feel like it's gonna be one of those things where if Texas gets into the playoff, they match up against you guys. All of a sudden, it's like, holy crap, Texas is killing it.
Yeah, we
Everybody's
saw
gonna
what
be,
they
like,
did to
shocked.
Alabama earlier this year.
Yeah.
We'll see
I
if they
think-
can survive what is the Big 12 cannibal site.
Yeah, I agree with you there, but I just want to say this right now. Anybody who has Alabama ranked over Texas, to me, you're just an idiot.
No, no.
They have a clear head-to-head win by double digits at home against Alabama.
Yeah, we
Move
can
on,
talk
yeah.
about that closer. I mean, those are crazy hypotheticals people are playing. It's like
Mhm.
Bama wins out, and wins the SEC. Texas wins out, wins the Big 12. Like there are people that like are putting Bama ahead of Texas. It's like
That's crazy to
do
me.
we
What's
just
the point
forget
of-
about head to head?
Yeah, what's the point of that if it doesn't matter?
Right? All right. We're gonna move on though. And we're gonna talk about Missouri surviving the Gators of Florida.
Yeah,
Where Florida, I thought played well. I watched the entirety of the game. I had
yeah.
them on my iPad. I had the Oregon State game on the TV. For a team that was 11.5-point underdogs, played really well. I thought.
Yeah.
Graham Mertz played well. The run game was there. They rushed for
Mhm.
261 yards on the ground. They averaged almost 7 yards a carry. 40.
Yeah.
They ran the ball 40 times. Had over 500 yards total offense. The defense,
Mhm.
while it wasn't great by no standard, they gave up 508 total yards.
Yeah.
Anything's better than what they did last week.
Mhm.
Montreal Johnson plus Trevor Etienne combined had 27 carries, 167 yards. Trevor Etienne had 1 touchdown. Excuse me. But we'll talk about Missouri first. Missouri, in their quest to get to a New Year's Six game, as well as double-digit wins,
Mhm.
came out of the gates pretty slow, in my opinion. Like it was just
Yeah.
they weren't playing Missouri as I thought they were going to play. Like, the offense was fine. It just, the defense felt like just wasn't there.
Yeah.
But, they held their own. Kudos to them for forcing the field goal late that ended up in, forcing two big-time turnovers. One was a really big turnover. Florida was driving, looking like they were probably going to score and take the lead, and then they fumble, and Missouri was able to capitalize on that, which huge turnover there. And then actually that led to 2 plays later, a Theo Weiss touchdown, 77-yard touchdown. That was his only catch, too. So you just can't have that happen. Inexcusable. I tweeted about it. I just was inexcusable touchdown to let up right there by Florida. Brady could. Go ahead. You can say what you say.
I just want to ask you, because this is just not to say but Manny Diaz got fired at Miami because of 4th and 14 against Florida State.
Yeah.
Right. Will, do you think giving up a first down on, was it 4th and 17?
It was 4th and 17.
Do you think giving up that first down and losing that game the way it will had people who were on the fence about Billy Napier, who have the power to fire him, leaning towards this is not the guy?
So I think
that's an inexcusable defensive failure.
For sure.
There.
So what really boggled me before that, so they were playing, let's go right when they had the ball, while they're milking the clock, kick field goal.
Yeah.
Missouri has a timeout left. Trevor Etienne runs out of bounds for some inexplicable reason. Let's Missouri keep the timeout. No clock's running. So they only end up killing a couple seconds when they kick the field goal. So I was watching a clip. It was if you make them use the timeout there and run the next play and then kick a field goal, you kill 40 to 42 seconds. That 4th down doesn't happen. But since it did happen,
it's just funny to me that
Florida's DC Austin Armstrong had been putting pressure on Missouri that final drive, and it was working. Backed up 4th and 17. Just don't give up a first down or get a penalty. And they played prevent 3-man deep and let Luther Burden just walk down the field. He had 9 catches for $158. They just let him unguarded. They just walked right down the field and just turn around and catch it and get into field goal range. And Harrison Mevis doesn't need much to kick a field goal. I mean, he kicked a 61-yarder, and then just from there it was just it was almost like a shock to the system. They ended up getting to the 20-yard line or something to kick a field goal.
Yeah.
Is it a fireable offense? No. But I do think that if this seat was on simmer for him, I think it's notched up to maybe low heat. And we were talking about this right before we recorded. Whatever happens in this Florida State game, I think now that we have 2 backups, you're at home at night, if you get blown out, it's cranked up to about medium heat. Yeah. And then it really is now, if you better lock down some recruits because you've already lost about 4 now in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you better figure out something as well as play calling and special teams. And I need at least a couple more wins next year.
Yeah.
Which is kind of hard to ask for.
You have to win 8 games, in my opinion.
7. I think 7.
I know you're saying 7, but you could go 6-6 and win a bowl game. I think you have to win 7 in the regular season.
7 in the regular season?
Yeah,
I thought so. 7-5 is really 7-5 was what I was thinking.
That's your minimum to me at this point, because there's no way. Because I think Florida fans are realistic, right?
Oh yes, trust me. I talked to a whole bunch of them.
No, but the vast majority, if you talk to a lot of them, they understand that this is a rebuild. They understand that hey, we're not where we want to be, but
a lot of them are actually, I think, are pissed actually
about this game. Yes.
No, just in general. And this is almost starting to become a boiling point.
But I think upstairs there's people who in the booster who are ridiculous on their expectations.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Because Dan Mullen had 1 bad season, he was out the door.
Lazy recruiting, but one really bad season, and they got rid of him.
But to me, in the modern age of recruiting, if you can just get guys in the transfer portal, it's okay. You know what I mean? But I think that his seat is a lot warmer than most people think, just because I think if they get blown out to Florida State, right, they turn around and they lose to Miami in 8 months from now, he's gone. He's gone before
You
the
think
season
they
even starts.
fire or mid-season, like in
Yeah,
season hiring?
I think they fire him like a game or two into SEC play so they can get ahead of everybody else and finding a new coach.
So I think that
Because they play, I think that I don't know if their full schedule has come out, but I know they
it
play
happens.
Miami, UCF, and
Yeah,
Texas.
I mean, they have Miami, UCF, Texas, LSU, Tennessee, Georgia. Like they got
Florida,
a
they got a
UCF, Florida
tough
State.
schedule.
It's a brutal schedule,
Yeah,
and you have a really young team. A lot
hmm
of freshmen are playing,
yeah. And
but
I don't want to be met, but there's a decent chance that they're going to be favored to lose in most of the games they'll play next year. I think
oh, for sure, there's no
because
doubt about that.
I think Miami game they'll probably be underdogs. I think
They'll
UCF
be a
game,
slight favorite in that
as
game.
crazy as it sounds in 2023, I think UCF might be a slight favorite just
They'll
because
be a slight favorites in those games, I think,
I only think UCF might
just
be
because
because
they're at home.
UCF will have more returning production, I think,
But it's
in
at
Florida.
home. They'll be the
Yeah.
favorite.
Is the
They'll be.
Miami game at
They'll
home?
probably be. Yeah, they get them all at home
How did they swindle that?
because they're Florida and they get to do that, and they'll be all night games. So, but finishing up here with Napier, I
Okay.
just think that he's like I said, he's got to be able to lock down these recruits. He's losing a
hmm
couple, which is
Yeah.
not always good, especially when you're losing.
hmm
They got one more game to try to get to a bowl game, and
Yeah.
they could play absolute spoiler and crush a season as if it needed any more crushing to Florida State fans and to the team,
Yeah.
and just go to a bowl game, and that would be huge for the team. I think Florida has shown fight the last couple weeks, though.
hmm
They're playing solid ball clubs, and they're not, they're not backing down. No pun intended, but
Yeah.
even the LSU game, it didn't end the way they wanted to, but they hung around in that game. You hang around to the very end of this game, the one you should have won. So they'll get one more shot. I think they're like a 6.5 point underdog right now going into this weekend.
I think so, yeah.
I for some reason I have more faith in Florida. I don't even think they're going to win this weekend, but I have more faith than most fans do here in Gainesville,
hmm
which is surprising considering I'm not the biggest fan of Florida, but I'm going to
Yeah.
speak the way I do. I'm going to speak truthfully about any team.
hmm
So, I think they have a legit shot to win this weekend, but they're going to have to play their best game of the
Yeah.
year. So we'll see if that happens. But that'll be a great game to talk about for the preview.
hmm
But we'll get into that next episode. We're going to move on real quick and knock out a couple more games here before we got to get to talk about some other impressing matters.
Yeah.
We're going to start with Auburn, or continue on here with Auburn. Sorry, my chair is there. We go. Kind of. Auburn got splattered at home by. You're reading it right if you're watching on YouTube. New Mexico State, 31-10. Not good. Just a couple quick things here. Auburn paid New Mexico State a $1.85 million
hmm
to come to Jordan Hare and splatter them.
Yep.
New Mexico State outgained them in total yards, 414 yards.
hmm
23 first downs to 12 first downs. 38 minutes and 50 seconds worth of time of possession.
All true.
Are you kidding me? New Mexico State did that
hmm
as 25.5-point underdogs.
Yeah.
Because I had New Mexico State in the points. I didn't think they were going to win, but that's the point. I mean, just an utter brutal loss in the first year for Hugh Freeze for a team that's going to a bowl game.
Humiliating loss.
Auburn's going to a bowl game, which is
hmm
crazy, but they are. But now this just sets up. Somebody tweeted, I forget who it was, but they said, I've seen this story before where Auburn gets blown out.
hmm
Bama wins in just impressive fashion against Chattanooga. I know it was Chattanooga. Don't disrespect the Mocs like that, but
Yeah.
Chattanooga. And now Saban and the gang got to go to this house of horrors down in Jordan Hare where the voodoo magic of some sort is present
real.
when he comes. It's real.
It's real when anybody goes there. I swear.
That's why it's the scariest place as a Georgia fan. When Georgia goes to Jordan Hare, I get scared to death, and
they almost got you guys this year, dude.
Yeah, every
Like,
year, every time we go there, it's down to the wire.
Mm-hmm.
But now you got Auburn coming off the most brutal loss in program history, one of the most brutal losses. Bama
I think it
comes
is
rolling
to me
with everything to play for. And how funny would it be as Auburn is a 14.5-point underdog right now, I believe.
Yep.
To just spoil the party and just pull off one of the more improbable upsets in college football.
I would back up a little bit on improbable. I would actually, number one, Auburn is going to cover that spread, right? Like you know what I mean? Like, there's no way Alabama wins by 14 points to me. That's ridiculous. 14.5. Come on. Or actually, it's dropped. It looks like it's dropped to 10.5.
Dropped to 10.5. Did it really?
I'm checking it right now. Hold on 1 second.
Nonetheless, though, if Saban, this would be the worst thing that he's wanted because now he's got to get his team refocused, and he hates doing that. Now Bama fans, completely probably thinking like overlooking this. This is a great look ahead spot because now you got the game of the year possibly at Georgia and Alabama.
Yep.
And smothered in between is the Iron Bowl. We're just and Jordan Hare, Auburn has nothing to play for except to ruin your season. Kind of like Florida this weekend.
Yeah.
Why not? Watch them just do out and just make this a ball game. I'm thinking this could possibly be a game kind of like the Georgia game where they just keep it close. They keep just hanging around, and then Bama's able to pull ahead late. But I would not be surprised if this is a game. We're going to move on.
I think Auburn's kind of going to do what they did against Georgia, and they're going to swap out quarterbacks too, which to me is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But for some reason, it just gets coaches who are good a little bit confused on what's going on.
Yeah. All right, we're going to move on.
Yep.
Louisville clinches an ACC title bid with win over Miami this weekend. They will take on Florida State in a couple of weeks in Charlotte for the ACC crown. Louisville, nice win. What a season, first year for
Jeff Brom.
For Jeff Brom. They are now 10-1.
Yep.
Louisville will be a top. They were ranked 11th.
10th.
So they'll stay in the top 10. Obviously, I look for them to probably hop to 9, past Missouri. I think Missouri and them will flip flop more likely than 9. It was for the first year. It was weird. Every team in the top 10 won this week. Talk about chalk. That's chalk. But listen, Louisville played well. They've got they weren't really able to run the ball as effectively as they wanted to, probably in the second half as they did in the first half. But Jack Plummer played well enough. Miami's probably one of the better teams at 6-5. The old saying, like, you are what your record says you are, like, is not true.
It's not true for college football.
Miami is a solid ball club from a staff. They're a younger team as well. But from, these guys are going to be a lot better, I think, next year. Look for Miami to be like an 8-9 win team next year. As crazy as I say that, like, because Miami fans have crazy expectations. But I think that Chris Ball has this team where he wants it. Just a couple tough losses this year. Even this game, like, this was a back and forth game, but just a couple bad plays here and there. Just were deep. The offense just kind of stalled, and Louisville was able to kind of take over. Tyler Van Dyke, I thought, played well enough to win the game. But, just the offense stalled at the end, and that really ended up being the difference maker. So, but listen, Louisville, I think they might give Florida State a run for their money, especially now that Travis is out. You got to think.
I don't know.
Well, listen, you saw what Notre Dame at the time. Louisville has showed, though, because that they could play physically, outman you.
Yeah.
And that they have some guys behind a really good transfer quarterback, Jack Plummer. Like, they got a good quarterback and good enough weapons to keep you honest and beat you in different ways. So look for this to be – that's going to be – it's a whole different ballgame now that Travis is out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be closer. But I still think with Tate Rodemaker is probably one of the most experienced backups in college football. He's now 3 years in under the same coaching staff that brought him in. He's been the backup every single year. He actually beat Louisville last year at home in Louisville. Different coaching staff, but most of the players are the same at Louisville. They didn't have that big of a transfer overhaul. Especially on the defensive side. But they do have problems in the pass when it comes to Louisville. They do tend to give up quite a few passing yards. I mean, gave up 330 to Tyler Van Dyke last week or just the other day.
Yeah.
They do have problems, but I still think they're a top 10 squad for sure. And I agree with you that this is going to be a close game. I think Florida State Louisville will be close, but
I think we'll get a good indication of what to expect maybe from Rodemaker after this Florida game. Because there's nothing worse than making really your first official start in the swamp at night. As bad as Florida can be, it's a sold out crowd, regardless of how many Florida State fans, how many Florida fans are there. It's going to be a rocking environment, and I'll be able to report that live.
Yeah.
So keep up with the tweets. Just follow me on Twitter or X, Hunter DeLauder. Keep up the tweets there. But, we're going to get an indication of what he's about after this game, whether or not they win or lose. And that's going to be a lot going into conference championship week against the Louisville.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to move on real quick to now Michigan outlasting Maryland. Boy, oh boy, did I want the Terps to win. I was looking for one upset this weekend. That wasn't.
Yeah.
And I really thought Maryland was going to do it. They came out and got just punched right in the mouth. 23-3, they're down. They scored late in the first half. They score right there to start the second half. It's 23-17. They get the ball back. And then Talia Tagovailoa throws a really bad pick. Michigan scored a field goal. Got another field goal. Got bailed out by an intentional grounding call that was a ticky-tack one. And Tagovailoa was in the end zone at the time of that, so it was a safety. And so Maryland, who did score to cut the lead to, what was it? It was 29-24 at the time. So, they cut it to 5.
Yeah.
Just had their chances. And just like Oregon State did. They had chances to take the lead, and just for some reason, the offense stalled. They just weren't able. They were getting pinned back after they would force a punt. They were getting pinned back inside their own 25. Weren't able to do much after they scored. And it was just weird. It's like every time Michigan was giving you a chance to beat them, Michigan's defense played well, but the offense just wasn't doing anything. So credit to Michigan. J.J. McCarthy, another lackluster day, though. 12 of 23, $141. He threw 1 interception. He probably should have thrown about 3. There were at least 2 that went right through people's hands. I'm just not a believer in the guy. I mean, Michigan,
I don't believe in him either. I think he's bad. Just straight up, I don't think he's good.
I think Michigan's run game is hiding him. And Michigan's run game against a not very good Maryland defense only rushed the ball 45 times for only 150 yards. They only averaged 3.3 yards a carry. Just not good. It was and we could call it I thought maybe it could be a look-ahead spot. Going to Maryland right before Ohio State, nothing, especially all the off-the-field issues. But still, you're expected to play better than that. And that's why, after watching that, I'm like, Ohio State, I really think they could go in and win this. Especially, I would like McCord as bad, but not as bad. So. I think as serviceable as McCord's been, I think it's been a lot better than what McCarthy's been. I think they're hiding McCarthy. I think he hasn't had to do anything. Look at the schedule they've played. Even against Penn State, he threw the ball 8 times. That's the best game they've played against.
I don't think he's a very good quarterback at all. In my opinion.
Outside the Ohio State game, he knew all the plays. So they were cheated, so he knew all the plays, knew Ohio State's defense.
Yeah.
TCU, they weren't allowed to cheat because TCU was prepared for the cheating. And we saw J.J. McCarthy literally single-handedly give the game to TCU with 2 pick sixes. So, overhyped. I think they're hiding him. If I'm going to be blunt with it, I think they've been hiding him, especially covering him up with that schedule of a joke that they've been playing. People are going to get on Georgia about their schedule. Michigan's schedule is just comical.
A joke. Yeah.
The best game they played is Penn State, and Penn State just got by Rutgers enough yesterday.
I think
So
Penn State eventually falls out of the top 10 too, if they're not already out.
they're already out, and they're not
Yeah,
going
but they're
to
not
even
coming back.
sniff it back. No.
Yeah.
So Drew Aller, I think, got banged up too the other day. So,
Mhm.
but Michigan is a flawed team. I think their running game's still good enough, but their defense is what's going to have to carry them, I think, in this Ohio State game. Otherwise, I think Ohio State's going to go in there and beat them. So,
Yeah.
because Ohio State can match up physically as they've
Yeah.
showed this year,
Mhm.
and I think they've got something to prove. We'll talk about that next episode, but I like Ohio State's chances.
Me
All
too.
right.
I just want to
Now
bring
finish up your one thing.
I'm very tired of people saying Florida State has a bad schedule, and then they turn around and don't say anything about Michigan's schedule. Because
Why is nobody?
They play nobodies, and then they struggle with out-of-conference FCS schools at home. Like, it's ridiculous at this point. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, well, they want to get on Florida State and Georgia's schedule, but it's like
it's like what are we supposed to do? We schedule tough non-conference, and then
Georgia. Sorry that
follow through.
Georgia's average margin of victory over ranked teams right now is 24 points. Sorry, okay,
Like,
they
it's
just
not
handle
FSU's,
business.
It's not FSU's fault they scheduled the number 5 team in the country, LSU, and then LSU just decides to not play defense that year.
Could we say that
it's
it's
not their
either?
fault.
I mean, yeah,
Mhm.
teams. There's just better teams in the. Even just
Whatever.
the first 4 games of the year was East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, and freaking. I think who am I missing? There was some other joke of a team. So like, just McCarthy's a fraud. Sorry, he's not. I'm not sorry. He's a fraud, and he's going to get exposed this weekend. We're moving on. Playoff rankings predictions. Number 4. These are coming out Tuesday night. Usually, we record on Tuesday nights, so we just talk about the playoff reactions from the latest rankings. But we were recording Monday night, so we're going to give our playoff predictions. So we're going to give it our top 6. I'm going to go the first 2 out. I'm going to go number 6, Oregon, number 5, FSU, and so my top 4 will then be Georgia, number 1. Number 2 is Ohio State. Number 3, Michigan. Number 4, Washington. My reasons why. Mainly the swap is because Washington now has ranked wins over Arizona, Oregon State, Oregon. I expect maybe UCLA to sneak into the top 25 if they are not already. So
yeah, they probably will.
Already 3 solid victories. Utah, who got their doors blown in this weekend by Arizona. How about the Jetfish? 8-3. Let's give it for Arizona. So shout out Arizona, whose win total this year, their over-under win total, I think, was 4.5. So shout out Arizona. That's why I have the jump. I just think just the ranked wins, it's a better strength, better resume right now to this point. But if Florida State, if they win out, the people that are, we'll talk about this in hot questions. I got a question, but like people that think Florida State, there's people out there, like legit people, like in the media that think that even if they go undefeated, they're not going to make it.
We can get into that, but bothers me right there. I'm just gonna say I have the exact same rankings as you, and I agree with all your reasons. I think the committee and us agree that the injury should not matter for the rankings. We're not predicting games. We're going off of what happened, right? Where the teams are right now. And right now, Washington does have the better resume than Florida State does.
Yeah.
I think you can make the argument that every team in the top 10 has a better resume than Michigan, but that's here or there. We'll ignore that for now.
That's why I think
whatever.
That's why I think if Ohio State beats Michigan, there's no shot they're even.
There's no way Michigan.
There's not going to be a situation from like last year. No shot.
Yeah, no, I don't think so at all.
Their best win is against a Penn State team. That's best win is Rutgers.
Yeah.
So, no, you're gone.
Yeah, no,
you're gone.
That's terrible. But I think we'll go into. I can see the questions right here, the hot questions. But if we just want to transition straight into this first one about Travis.
Yeah. So the question is, what does the Jordan Travis injury mean for Florida State's future? Continue your thought.
To me, you've got to keep on schedule, right? To keep the guys motivated. Because right now, to me, and I think you agree with me here, there is no conversation where an undefeated Power 5 team that has scheduled tough non-conference teams gets skipped out for a one-loss team. That would never happen to me in a million years. I don't care if Texas or, I don't care if Texas is a one-loss Power 5 champ, right?
Yeah.
They're not getting in over Florida State to me.
So the only thing I see
Mhm.
that would somewhat defend what they're saying, and
Yeah.
I'm not taking.
Mhm.
I still think like if they're undefeated, they prove that
Yeah.
they can go in.
hmm
You're fine. The only argument I could see is that you can use the 2014 Ohio State example when they were out a
Yeah.
third string quarterback, but I could see the argument where you don't is without Jordan Travis, or can we legitimately say that Florida State is one of the 4 best teams in the country, regardless.
Yeah.
Is because Jordan Travis is like the engine that runs this machine
Yeah.
that they are.
Mhm.
So, do we think that is Tate Rodemaker good enough? Let's say to go
Yeah.
toe to toe with Carson Beck or Bo Nix or Kyle McCord in that offense at Ohio
Yeah.
State, or
Mhm.
I don't know, Washington, like Michael Penix. Like,
Yeah.
is he able to do that, or are we setting ourselves up for failure and watching them just run themselves into a buzzsaw from any
Yeah.
team? You know what I mean? You
I
can
mean,
kind of see that one point,
I
but
can see the argument. My problem with the argument is just the fact that, like,
I think that
if
would be
injuries
more.
if injuries are part of football, right?
Yeah,
Jordan Travis is one guy on a team that has 22 starters at a time.
yeah,
He is the best player on that team, right?
yes.
But he is not the only player on that team. If we're being honest with ourselves, he's not the most talented player on that team. There's a
No.
lot of guys who are going to be higher drafted picks than he is.
But he's just the guy that runs it.
Mhm.
He's been the heart and
Yeah.
soul of that team. He's been there
Mhm.
through the very lows and now the up really highs.
Yeah. So I think to me, obviously, these next few games mean the world, because I think if they beat Florida handily and then they beat Louisville by, to me, it doesn't even matter because Louisville will be a top 10 team. But
I still think so. I think the people that are saying like, the undefeated crowd, like, I think what they really would like, or really more maybe thinking about is, say Florida State loses this week to Florida, but wins the
yeah,
ACC. That's
Mhm.
where I say like I don't think they have enough.
Yeah, I don't think they have enough.
They're not going to have enough,
I agree
regardless
with
of if they win the
you.
conference. They're going to go to the
Yeah,
Orange Bowl probably because I
yeah,
think it's the highest ACC team. They'll go to
yeah.
the Orange Bowl.
They'll probably play like Michigan,
They'll
right?
play they'll play in the Orange Bowl. They'll get a good New
Mhm.
Year's Six game, New Year's Six bowl, and win the ACC first time since
They'll probably
2014.
play. Actually, let's be honest with you. They'll probably play either Alabama or Missouri.
So yeah, so yeah, like
That'd be
you're gonna
fun.
get a really good bowl game, but that's the
Mhm.
crowd. That's if you're saying they're gonna lose to Florida and win
Yeah.
the ACC. Now
Mhm.
they could very much well lose their next 2 games, and it's just you really it's like, wow, Jordan Travis meant that much to this
Yeah,
team. I still think they have enough weapons to beat Florida.
I do too.
That
And
Louisville game scares me.
but here's my thing. There's just a couple little things about it. Tate Rodemaker is a player who a lot of people don't know much about, right? And just because I am a Florida State fan, I can give people insight. A couple things about him. This should be his moment. He was the
Is
first player who Mike Norvell gave a scholarship to as head coach of Florida State.
yes.
He was the first player to commit to Florida State under Mike Norvell's first class. He has sat there behind Jordan Travis every single year. He has not transferred. He's not entered the portal. He has been the guy behind him. And to me, he's earned this moment. I think he'll go out and play big because I think he's really talented.
Yeah.
If you watch him play, he's not Jordan Travis. That's not his style of play. I would compare him more to a, Justin Herbert-esque player, right? Where he's tall, he's skinny, and he's a cannon for an arm. He's got mobility, but he's not fast, if you get what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Mhm.
But he's got a cannon on an arm. It's
So
just his problem for his first year at Florida State was he had a turnover problem. He
yeah.
played like one game he played like a little bit against Florida in 2021, I think. And the Florida State lost 24-21 that year. But he's played in the swamp before. You know what I mean? This is a
Yeah.
guy who has, compared to both quarterbacks, you know what I mean? He has had experience. He's played in big environments. I think he can go out there and win these games. Could he win a playoff game? We'll see. But these next 2 games, I think he has it.
So I was looking at according to FanDuel,
Mhm.
this week they're 6.5 point favorites.
Yeah.
Right now, the current line for Louisville They're a 5.5 point favorite. So Vegas still sees them as a just underneath a touchdown favorite.
Yeah.
I think like what you
Well,
were saying
we have
is
to see what happens with Louisville.
well, so like,
Kentucky,
that's what I
too.
think. Well, yeah. So like that's just currently right now. Like
Mhm.
you're all that's just the current line, projected line.
Yeah.
Not the projected line. Like you can go bet that right now on FanDuel.
Mhm.
But I think what like we're both more intrigued about is how we can properly set or like put our I don't know how you say it, like adjust Florida State's like our mindset towards them is really what
Yeah.
we're gonna have to after watching them against Florida. Because
Mhm.
regardless of how Florida is,
Yeah.
it's still a hostile crowd. This
Mhm.
is gonna be a more hostile crowd that he'll see in the ACC title game. I'll tell you that
Yeah.
right now. Like at under the lights, like it's gonna be something. I expect him to play well,
Yeah.
but it'll be more of like either A, he just nothing bothers
Mhm.
him and he just goes out and rolls, or B, gets a little gun shy maybe, like first
Yeah.
start just isn't maybe properly right for this and he struggles. We're gonna
Mhm.
see if he struggles at all in the close game. I
Yeah.
think if you're Florida State though, you need to leave no doubt. No
Mhm.
doubt. Like especially with the committee, how like up and down they are.
Yeah.
Like you want to leave no doubt in their mind. Like Rodemaker's fine. You
Mhm.
don't skip a beat. We're fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah. No,
a
I agree
lot
with
to
you
look
there.
for with FSU. We're gonna move on though to our next question.
Mhm.
All right, Dylan. After week 12, who is your Heisman top 3?
Okay, good one. So I got my number 1 is Jaden Daniels.
Okay.
I think right now he should be the favorite. I know there's conversations with him, Bo Nix, because Bo Nix's team is a lot better in general. But I think right now it should be Jaden Daniels, number 1. Number 2, Bo Nix.
Yes.
And number 3, just barely squeaking it there anymore, is Michael Penix Jr. I
Okay.
think he'll fall out eventually, either this week against Washington State or against Oregon later. I think he'll eventually just fall out of the top 3.
Yep.
But right now he's my number 3.
So I have Jaden Daniels at 1. I
Mhm.
think you need to remember as the Heisman candidate people are archaic and
Yeah.
they're kind of like the Baseball Hall of Fame people, but they
Mhm.
need to remember that you are again, like I said a little bit ago, like
Yeah.
the saying like you are what your record says you are is
It's
not
not
true.
true.
The award goes to the overall best player, not based off team record. Jane
Yeah.
Daniels had over 600 yards, I believe, again, of total
Mhm.
offense, or at least 500. Like, again, regardless who they played Georgia State. I know that. But regardless, like, doing his thing. He should be number 1. Bo
Mhm.
Nix 2, only because Bo Nix, as good as he's played, hasn't played a down game at all this year. The only reason why I
Yeah.
don't really have him as my favorite, the only game that really mattered this year, he wasn't the best quarterback on the field. And that was
Yeah.
Michael Penix. Michael Penix was the best player on that field, that quarterback on that
Mhm.
field that day, regardless of
Yeah.
how good Bo Nix played. Bo Nix is
Mhm.
better right now than where Penix is, but on the field
Yeah.
that day, Penix was better. And that's why I just think that that's keeping Nix down for me. Currently, it's Penix, like you said. But Carson
Yeah.
Beck's probably like right there for me.
Mhm.
I think if Carson Beck goes out and throws for 300 again this
Yeah.
week and then goes out and turns around and does what he's doing against Bama, he's a
Mhm.
Heisman finalist. They take 4. I think it's going to be all 4 quarterbacks. I think it's going to be 4 quarterbacks again.
Yeah.
I expect Beck to come back next year, and Beck and Ewers should probably be the Heisman final or Heisman front runners going into next year.
Yeah. I
But
would agree. The front runner, you never know when the season really gets into it, but
correct. I
I
said
agree with you. I think they should be the front runners. Obviously we're not right now actively. That's for the show later this year.
there you go.
But
There you
we're
go.
not actively saying who we think is going to be next year, but I agree with what you said there.
For sure. All right, we're
So I
moving on.
think Ewers might be that guy next year. You never
Here we
know.
go. Who's more likely to be out first? Jim Harbaugh, with all the off the field crap, the scandal, cheating,
Yeah.
and all that fun stuff,
Mhm.
or Lincoln Riley.
So I think Jim Harbaugh, personally, because I think teams really want Jim Harbaugh right now. There's a lot of NFL teams that really want him right now who could pay to get him. He's
Mhm.
in a legal and possible sanction problem with Michigan, and his buyout isn't that crazy. Like, we're
So
being
I
honest
don't
with
even
ourselves,
think he'll
his
get bought
buyout's
out.
not even. His buyout's not that crazy.
I think
For
when you
somebody
need
else.
to get bought out, I think he could just leave if
Yeah.
the opportunity comes.
But
think
if another team or school, you never know, maybe that
Oh,
team
yeah.
in College Station, but they could do it. By the way, if they wanted to, they so have the money to do that. But I think if we're being honest here, if an NFL team like the Bears or the Colts knocks at his door in 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 5 weeks, I think he would bounce. If we're
He was
being honest.
interviewing for the Vikings job last year and signing there.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
say so. I'm gonna go Lincoln Riley, and the only reason why is because I feel like as soon as like head coaching or like a OC job pops up in the NFL,
Mhm.
Riley, I don't see why he wouldn't consider it. He has done
So-
a horrific job this year.
Yeah,
Why not do? If you honestly, he should just go back to being a full-time OC, where you don't have to rely on worrying about what the defense does. You just rely on scoring points, and you're good at that. You're not good at coaching defense, or you're not good at getting DCs. You're not good at having any good defenses ever. You've rode on the coattails of Heisman winning quarterbacks.
yeah.
You haven't done anything in your career.
So, I mean,
but if we're strictly looking at this year, you had a Heisman winning quarterback, and you are 7-5 to finish the year.
Yeah.
You put all the blame towards Grinch. You fire him, and the defense looks the same. Looks the same. And so I'm going to take – so Lincoln Riley would be out for me. I think his seat's turned up. He's not winning recruiting battles right now in California. He's losing those. It's just bad. It's bad. And now Caleb Williams is going to be gone. Defense is still atrocious.
Yep.
Riley would be out for me before Harbaugh is.
So the only reason I disagree with that is because I don't think USC would pay, because he's getting paid a lot of money right now. And for him to leave his job at USC is to take a pay downgrade at another job, because I think last I looked, he's making north of $10 million a year, and the average NFL coordinator makes a little over $4 million a year. So that's such a steep drop in pay. I don't think he would take that. Not even like that. I don't think he, I'm not saying whatever, but I'm just saying I don't think him personally would take that much of a pay downgrade.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason I disagree with you, because I don't think they fire him any reason, and I don't think any NFL team wants him as their head coach right now either.
No,
because I think right now he's just not in a good situation.
He's got to do something to overhaul that defense. Bring in a DC and do what Sanders did and just get rid of a bunch of guys. Like, they got to overhaul that. They just lost a commit, I know, the other day. And so what you don't want is what you start losing recruits, and you start having guys that are committed and then on decommit, and then you have a bunch of transfers. Like, you don't want that. That's when the program starts, when the program has turned their back on you. You don't want that. So he's got to figure something out fast, because otherwise, this little joyride honeymoon that USC has had is not going to be lasting much longer. Yeah,
I will say I don't think he gets fired anytime soon, just because his salary is like crazy.
Now,
and I'm also, USC is a school that has money to burn.
So counter that with you're going to the Big Ten next year. Where you have to play Ohio State, the Michigans, the Oregons, the Washingtons, the Iowas, Wisconsins, teams that are much more physical than you. Penn State. Yeah. That defense, what am I supposed to be? If I'm Penn State, I'm ecstatic to play USC next year.
Yeah.
I mean, UCLA just bullied them this weekend. Bullied them and just blew them out. Chip Kelly was going to get fired. He's probably not going to get fired now. Like, they had him on the chopping block. They were going to pull his plate. If you ever watched Chopped, if you're the one out, like, they got the plate over it, like, they're going to pull you up and you're like, oh, you've been chopped. Like, they had Chip Kelly's, head right there on the chopping block, and they were going to pull it up. And now he's fine. He's fine. So that's Riley for me. I know you don't agree, but looking into next year, it feels like regardless, they won't buy him out right now. He's not going to get fired right now.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, it feels like it's only going to get worse from here for him, especially now that they're going to a conference where they're going to get physically outclassed
Yeah.
right now. So, and I mean, this year he's struggled against Notre Dame, Utah, UCLA, Washington. It's been
Yeah.
bad. It's been bad. So,
I just think so. Even when they're going into the Big Ten, they're going to be as crazy as it seems. People don't talk about it enough. USC is absolutely going to be the richest school in the Big Ten, only because they're going to be.
well,
the
money
only-
can only get you so far. I mean, look at
No,
Texas A&M.
I agree with you, but to counter that, they're going to be able to hire people, right? If they really want to go out there and make a big difference, they could hire Manny Diaz from Penn State and outpay whatever they want.
Does
Penn
Manny
State
Diaz
wouldn't even be
want
able
to
to
deal
speak.
with that? Have an overhaul that entire roster and
I think if you
try
gave
to
him
find
$8
people?
million a year, he would.
We'll see. I mean, he has a pretty sweet job right now at Penn State where he's doing just fine on his side of the ball.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there, but I think any coach would leave for the right check.
Would you rather have your either the most brilliant offensive mind or the best defensive mind? Would you rather be a defensive mind going to USC, fill that
Yeah.
DC job, or fill up that Penn State OC job?
I would take the USC job
I'd take
only
the
for
OC
one
job.
reason. Only
Take
for
that
one
Penn
reason.
State job.
One reason only. Long term, I think you have better job security in Southern California than Penn State.
I would disagree. I think that you have a championship caliber defense for Penn State on one side of the ball. You have a quarterback that's a freshman this year. He has a lot to continue to work on and grow on. You're probably like a receiver or two that you can probably pick up in the portal.
Yeah.
Away from being legit, like contending, like that defense was good enough to win against Ohio State and Michigan this year. The offense let them down. You're a solid OC pickup away from really turning that ship around and really being where they want to be. So I would much rather be the OC spot.
Yeah.
But that's a great question for another time. We're going to go on
I
to
will
our final
say,
question. Finish up.
I will say, just to add up real quick, it does look like Manny Diaz has been looking at other defensive coordinator jobs.
I don't know why. I would stay where he is.
I probably doesn't like working with James Franklin.
Well, I think he'll be around for next year.
And I also think it's harder to recruit at Penn State than like another school. You know what I mean? Like a school in the South or a school like, literally anywhere but the Northeast corridor. I think that's the hardest spot in the country to recruit. Only because you get there's not that many athletes. Most kids don't really like the cold, and the kids that do like the cold are going for the Midwest teams of Michigan, Ohio State. That's why Notre Dame struggles at recruiting. Penn State struggles as I mean is they don't land top 10 classes. They're only finishing in the top 15 at best. And when they land a 5-star product, it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Like how much talk has been talking about Drew Aller. They've been talking about his next world if he was the second ranked quarterback in that class.
All right. Final question.
Mm-hmm.
And this is more of just a slight preview towards next episode where we talk about our game previews. Should Michigan be worried? Or we're just quick answer. On a scale of about 1 to 10, maybe decimal points in between. I don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
How concerned should Michigan be about Ohio State this week?
10. No
10,
question.
DEFCON 10. Sound the alarms.
Mm-hmm. Because I think if you lose this game, your season is done.
Oh,
you
for
have
sure.
zero chance at doing this. You will end up in a situation that we're calling Jim Harbaugh every year before the pandemic, where you're good, you're decent, you play Ohio State, you lose, then you lose your bowl game.
Finish what you said.
And that's just a bad situation to be in because I don't think they're as good on offense, even close. If we're being honest here, Kyle McCord's not a good quarterback, but compared to J.J. McCarthy, he looks quite a bit better. And their defense at times has just not played great. It's weird is at times they look like the best defense in the history.
They don't
of the
look
sport.
as concerned. They just don't look entertained, what they're doing. They're playing with their food in a sense.
Mm-hmm. They give up weird long drives. They let quarterbacks and offenses hang in games for way too long. I think that has more to do with their offense not being able to do anything ever than really problems with their defense. But when you play a team like Ohio State that has more weapons than any team you faced all year. Not even close.
Yeah.
Like, they're not even in the same universe, right? Ohio
Mhm.
State is far and away the best team you play. The only team you play that has even above average talent on offense. If we're being, a lot of the teams you play in the Big Ten are the most average offenses on the planet.
Yeah.
Like, that's a conference known for poor offenses and good defenses. So you're
Yeah.
gonna play one with a good offense and a good defense. And in my opinion, you should be absolutely terrified of what they could do to you, especially since you don't have a head coach. And their interim head coach right now has not shown me anything that he could really coach a game.
Mhm.
I mean, they beat Penn State, but so does, they do that every year.
Yeah, very concerned play calling or conservative
Mhm.
play calling is what they
Yeah.
are. I'm gonna say an 8.8 because I
8.8. That's
think
fair.
that
Yeah.
you know
Mhm.
they should be very concerned. Like I think Ohio State I would give Ohio State even as a 3.5 point underdog right now.
Yeah.
I would give them the slight favorite to win. You get it at home. Maybe they were just looking ahead from the Maryland game, but I just haven't seen enough from JJ McCarthy to be like, oh wow, like he's going to be a guy that's going to take care of this. But
Hmm.
the defense has played well enough. If the secondary plays well enough to keep them in games, limit other past teams from doing anything, I think the run game's solid enough that they'll keep on just chugging along if they ever just want to rely to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they should be very concerned about Ohio State and those weapons on the outside. I think Kyle McCord, we've seen him even in games where he hasn't lit it up. The Notre
Hmm.
Dame game, the Penn State game, he's done enough. And what
Yeah.
does he always do when you ever you need get out of trouble? Look for Marvin Harrison.
Yep.
Marvin Harrison Jr. always seems to be open, so find a way to get to him. And
Hmm.
if Marvin Harrison has a really good game, look for him to be right back there in that Heisman finalist area. He's not going to
Yeah.
win it, but he could be a finalist. So
Mhm. I
8.8
agree
for
with
me. You have a 10. We're going to move on to winners and losers here as we round
that.
out
So
this episode 52.
one more thing before we do that, I do want to bring up something that I was reading about, and I think it's
Okay.
important to bring up.
Okay.
As of November 16th, it's officially true. The Pac-12 will not die this year. The
Okay.
Pac-12 will continue to exist for the next 2 seasons with just Oregon State and Washington State.
Okay.
This is the craziest situation I've ever heard, but it looks like they're working with the Mountain West to make scheduling arrangements. They sued the other schools and they won. So they're going to continue to get money from the Pac-12 and they owe all of
I saw
the
something at
hundreds of million dollars
Washington.
in assets.
Was Washington like doing something to be still like almost a part of it in a sense?
They were trying, but the Oregon State and Pac-12 won a legal battle. So pretty much they own sole control of the Pac-12 and potentially hundreds of millions of dollars in assets. Pretty much everything the Pac-12 owns, those two schools will own alone. Nobody
So
else will
I
have any.
do know that Oregon State and Washington, with them with them
Yeah.
playing the Mountain West like schedule,
Mhm.
they still won't be eligible to compete in the Mountain West Conference game, title
Yep.
game.
However, because the Pac-12 was a listed as a Power Five school with an official Rose Bowl like play-in, right? They will still have that for the next 2 years. So
Nice.
whoever wins the Pac-12 between Oregon State and Washington State, who they play each other, so it's going to be one of those two schools, will get an automatic New Year's Six Bowl for the next 2 years
Hey,
in
it's
2024 and 2025.
that's not a bad deal, honestly.
That's kind of crazy to me because the NCAA has a rule that has a 2-year grace period for conferences to operate with as few as two schools.
That's crazy. I mean, they kind of lucked out right there.
I wonder. My big question is going to be is if they're going to try to merge with the Mountain West and just rebuild the Pac-12, but with all the Mountain West schools now.
Um,
Because I think they could do it. I think that would be enough for
would
them to be able to
would the
say.
other teams maybe want to be interested enough in that? That's going to be where I think, from a
I think
financial spot.
I think from the financial, if Washington State and Oregon State have control of those financial assets, right? They work with the NCAA to hold their bid for an automatic New Year's Six Bowl. I think all those schools in the Mountain West would jump at the opportunity.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, see, but that's what I think. This is awesome to hear.
It's really good to hear. You love to see
Yeah.
it. We're gonna move on though to winners and losers real quick as we are getting close to time. We'll just run right through these. My winners this week are Carson Beck, 80% completion percentage. We talked about it, like just lit up Tennessee. Continues to play well and he just keeps on rolling.
Yeah.
Washington's defense, I really thought they were going to be in a tough spot this weekend. Force 3 turnovers, keep offense passing game in check for Oregon State, and you keep the run game from not going too crazy. Good job there. UCLA, same thing, utterly just bullied USC this weekend at USC. Great job right there for that Bruins ball club. My
Did they keep their head
losers,
coach?
we'll see. We'll see how. I think it's more now if Chip Kelly wants to be there or not.
Yeah.
So, who are your winners, real quick?
So my winners were New Mexico State killing Auburn.
There we
That
go.
is a wild thing to do. And then I had Louisville for clinching their spot in the ACC championship. Big first year for Jeff Brom. Fantastic for him. My two losers were Michigan, keeping it close with Maryland. Pretty much just continued all doubts everybody has about you, especially us two. I feel like a lot of people think they're written in for everything. I have doubts about them. You have doubts about them. But my other loser was Florida State for losing Jordan Travis. I mean, you lose a Heisman finalist, in my opinion. I thought if he kept on his trajectory, he would probably have a decent shot of going to New York as that fourth guy, not win the Heisman, but go to the go to New York and see it. But I still think they have a decent chance, but it's a big loss to say the least.
My losers are Tennessee. Just I think a lot of people thought that they were going to be a lot better than they were this year. Just never got any good wins. You lose against Florida, Missouri, Bama, Georgia, just in ugly fashions too. And all four of them, just ugly games. Lincoln Riley, disappointing year to say the least. That's putting it kindly.
Yeah.
Just not a good coaching job at all this year. What you had returning, the defense has never improved at all since you've been a coach at Oklahoma and USC.
Yeah.
And now you're 7-5, staring at a nice, middle of the pack bowl game. So, and that's just because you're a Power 5 team and you have a brand name like USC.
Yeah.
They'll probably play the Alamo Bowl against Oklahoma. And how funny would that be? So, Florida is my honorary loser of the week. Did enough to. It wasn't what they did throughout the game. It was how the game ended. You should have won the game, and you completely self-imploded and gave the game away to Missouri. So that's why you are an honorary loser of the week.
Yeah.
But we'll see how they bounce back this week. All right. Guys, another great show. 52 episodes complete. Crazy we've got this far. We'll be back probably sometime later this week. We'll get the games in. It'll probably be before Saturday for sure.
Yeah.
I think we said Friday we might be recording.
Friday, yeah. That's what
Friday
that's
morning.
Right now.
So
right now it's Friday morning.
So we'll record Friday morning, get the episode out, have the episode out by that afternoon. So you guys can watch still and right before the game starting up Saturday. Enjoy the Egg Bowl and a lot of the good games this weekend on Friday. Civil War on Friday. Yep. Arkansas, Missouri. I know. Listen, Pittman's coming back next year, so you never know. As I need Missouri to keep. Missouri would be awesome for Georgia fans to keep winning because it keeps helping that schedule out. Strength schedule. But enjoy the games this Saturday. If you are going to watch us on Friday, which would be crazy because you should watch us on Friday. But if you aren't, enjoy the games on Saturday.
What are you doing? Come on, watch us on Friday.
No, you're going to watch us on Friday. There we go. Make sure you guys are subscribing. Continue to subscribe, guys. We're coming close. We got about a month left here before our January 1st deadline. So make sure we're trying to get to 100. We need 23 more. There's 23 people out there. I know over 100 of you guys watched two episodes ago. I guarantee you, I can look up the stats. I bet you majority of you aren't subscribed. Subscribe to the pod. Helps us out. Helps you out. Watch us on Spotify. Watch us on YouTube. Listen on Spotify.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts here?
I'm just excited for the next episode. Let's watch some good games, man.
Let's watch some good games. Enjoy the Egg Bowl and have a great Thanksgiving. We'll see you guys Friday. See you.
See you guys.